While the hockey pros were wrapping up the regular season on Saturday night, collegiate hockey was crowning its new champion. Boston College continued its recent dominance of the Frozen Four as it defeated Ferris State 4-1 on Saturday night to win their third championship in 5 years. Goalie Parker Milner made 33 saves for BC, including 27 in the final 2 periods alone, and was named the most outstanding player of the tournament. Boston College finished the season with a 19-game winning streak, outscoring its opponents 77-21 during that span. Ferris State was making its first appearance in the Frozen Four.
There's a new power couple in Detroit, and they are bashing their way through the Boston Red Sox. Prince Fielder didn't take long to prove to the Detroit Tigers home crowd that he deserved the massive contract he received in the offseason. Tigers slugger Miguel Cabrera and Fielder both hit 2 bombs Saturday against the Boston Red Sox to lead their team to a 10-run shutout. Fielder adds a ton of power and production to the middle of an already dangerous Tiger lineup. The Tigers are poised for a World Series run led by the coaching of Jim Leyland, the arm of Justin Verlander, and the power of Cabrera and Fielder.
Tampa Bay Lightning star Steven Stamkos joined some very elite company on Saturday night. Stamkos scored his 60th goal of the season Saturday night in the third period of the Lightning's 4-3 win over the Winnipeg Jets. He joins Washington Capital Alex Ovechkin as the only player since 1996 to eclipse the 60-goal mark in a season. This season, Stamkos became just the 6th player in NHL history to record multiple seasons of 50 or more goals before the age of 23. The 22-year-old Stamkos was the #1 overall pick in the 2008 NHL Draft.
The Orlando Magic season seems to be more focused on the Dwight Howard soap opera than winning basketball games. The Magic have been plagued all season by the constant Dwight Howard trade speculations and Howard's inability to decide if he wants to remain with the team. When Orlando finally thought they could start focusing on basketball, their coach Stan Van Gundy was told by team sources that Howard had been demanding that he be fired. In 4+ seasons in Orlando, Van Gundy is 255 and 129 and has taken the team to the playoffs every season as a 3-seed or better. If a coach with the very successful resume of Van Gundy is fired because of one selfish superstar, then what has the NBA come to?
Welcome back to NSEN. I'm Clint Halford. Brandon, Channing, it's debate time. The first weekend of the Major League Baseball season's in the books. I want to know, who's your pick? Let's start in the American League. Channing.
I'm going to have to go with the Detroit Tigers. They haven't won a World Series since Prince Fielder's dad was there, and they get Prince this year, and they were a piece away last year going to Game 6 with the American League champions of last year, the Texas Rangers. The middle of the order, listen to this, Brandon. With the speed of Jackson, Alex Avila, Johnny Peralta, both who hit 20+ home runs last year. Cabrera, who hit 30. Fielder, who hit 38. Bosch, who hit 16. I mean, there's a lot of power in the middle of that lineup. And they swept the Boston Red Sox pretty handedly in the first 3 games of the season. Behind the arm of Justin Verlander, who's the best pitcher on the planet, won the Triple Crown last year. First pitcher in 15 years to do that. And Jim Leyland's a good coach. They have Doug Fister is their #2 pitcher, and he went 8-1 with a 1.79 ERA after getting traded from Seattle last year. And Max Scherzer, he's a decent 3. He got rocked by the Red Sox in Game 3 of the series, but he's a pretty good pitcher. And Jose Valverde, their closer, had 49 saves without blowing one last year with a 2.24 ERA. So I think the Detroit Tigers are leading the pack in the American League this year.
I can see that.
Team.
I could see that. There's no question that the Detroit Tigers can mash. They're probably the best offensive team in all of baseball. Mm-hmm. But I still have questions about that pitching staff, which is why my pick for the American League is going to be the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Obviously, the big signing over the offseason, they signed Albert Pujols, who is going to go down as the greatest player in the history of baseball. But listen to this pitching staff. They have Jared Weaver, Dan Herron, C.J. Wilson, who they signed from the Texas Rangers from last season, Irvin Santana, and they got a young closer by the name of Jonathan Walden, who had 32 saves last season with a 2.98 ERA, just a 23-year-old rookie. But they have Vernon Wells, who's been a complete bust.
He's been a bust since he got his money.
Since he got that big contract. But he did have 25 home runs last year. He's overpaid. He's the most overpaid player in the league. I agree with that. But he did hit 25 home runs last year. Torrey Hunter still knocked out 23 home runs. He is getting old, though. But I believe with Albert Pujols in the middle of that lineup, they got Mike Trout, who's in the minors right now, but was named the best prospect in baseball last season by Baseball America, just waiting to take over in center field.
You can't bank on your.
You can't bank on a rookie
prospect.
20-year-old coming in, but he can
Who
get
do they have in the middle of their order though to produce runs? Like
Albert Pujols.
I know besides Albert.
You both got your picks in for the American League. Let's move over to the National League. I'm going to start actually back over here with Brandon.
Okay.
Who you got in the National League?
The National League, it's really, to me, it's the haves and the have-nots, and I'm gonna go with the team that's basically dominated the National League over the last few seasons, the Philadelphia Phillies. And as a Braves fan, it really pains me to say that. But okay, their offense is sort of down this year. Chase Utley continues to be hurt. Ryan Howard's out until probably the All-Star break with a torn Achilles. But they did get Hunter Pence at the trade deadline last season. Hit .314, 22 home runs, 97 RBIs last year. Still have Jimmy Rollins at shortstop. But the reason I'm going to choose them is they have the best 3 pitchers on a staff in baseball,
Even though they
bar none.
Lost Oswald.
But when you can trot out Roy Halladay, Cliff Lee, and Cole Hamels, 50 wins between those 3 pitchers last season. Cole Hamels was actually the worst of the 3,
Yeah, but I don't
and
think
he
they
went
can score enough
14.
runs to win the National League.
You don't have to score runs
Listen
with
to
Roy
the St.
Halladay.
Louis Cardinals lineup. Furcal steals a lot of bases. Furcal is injury prone, but Beltran, granted he stays healthy, at the 2 slot. Beltran, Holiday, Berkman, and Freese, 2 through 6. Freese hit .490 with 7 home runs in the playoffs last year. Listen to the pitching staff. Loesch had 14 wins. Garcia had 13 wins. Wainwright won 22 years ago. He missed all last season with a 2.4 ERA. And then if Carpenter comes back in the middle of the year, that's a pretty stout rotation to go along
But
with
is it
a
better
lot
than
of
the
power.
Phillies?
The rotation's not as good as the Phillies, but the hitting, I think, is above and beyond what Philadelphia has.
I mean, I think you can argue that, but I mean, Ryan Howard is going to be back.
Plus, Philadelphia's got a lot more competition in their division.
They do, and but they shored up. Philadelphia shored up the bullpen by signing Jonathan Papelbon over the offseason.
But he blew 7 saves last year.
But he had 31 saves and a 2.94 ERA. But I'm going to go back to this rotation. Just listen to these numbers. Roy Halladay last year, 19-6 with a 2.35 ERA. Cliff Lee, 17-8 with a 2.40 ERA. Cole Hamels, the worst of the 3, 14-9, 2.79 ERA. When that's your third starter,
But
in a 7-game series, that's the only 3 pitchers you're going to see.
If Howard's knee doesn't get, if he doesn't come back in June, they keep moving it back. They say maybe July. If he's not in the middle of in that lineup, if Utley's keeps aging and getting hurt, I mean Jimmy Rollins is a career 240 hitter. Where's the runs going to come through?
I mean,
Hunter Pence.
You're saying
It's
St.
going to
Louis.
come down to y'all's pitching against
You're
our
saying
hitting.
St. Louis, who's dependent on guys like Rafael Furcal and Carlos Beltran, who have never been healthy.
But surely to God, Beltran's got to stay healthy 1 year in his career, and this
I
might be
mean,
the year to do it.
I guess, in terms of chances.
I'll tell you what, all 4 of those teams, fantastic teams. I expect to see them in the playoffs at the end of the year.
Definitely.
Speaking of playoffs, NBA season coming to a close. I want to know another question. Who you guys have winning it all?
I think Oklahoma City wins it all. You got, in my opinion, the best player in the NBA, Kevin Durant, 28 points, 8 rebounds a game. Right now, the most clutch player in the NBA. Russell Westbrook, though he shoots a lot, he's not a great distributor. He's averaging 5 assists a game, but 24 points from your second best scorer. Ibaka's averaging 4 blocks a game. So 9 points, 8 boards, and 4 blocks a game from him. That's a big defensive push down the stretch in the playoffs. Plus, you're getting 17, 4, and 4 from James Harden. And Oklahoma City goes as James Harden goes, usually. Second best record in the NBA, tied same record as the Spurs atop the Western Conference. And I think their only competition is San Antonio, and San Antonio's old. So, what do you think, Brennan?
The San Antonio, their top 3 is pretty old, and it's hard to argue against Oklahoma City. They're really young. They've got the young legs. In a 7-game series, they're going to be tough to beat. But I'm going to stay in the Western Conference, and I'm going to go with San Antonio. San Antonio has made their money during the Greg Popovich era on defense. But this season, they're 3rd overall in points per game, just slightly
Oklahoma
below
City's second.
Oklahoma City. Just slightly below Oklahoma City. I think it's San Antonio is averaging 102.3.
They don't have a defensive presence like Serge Ibaka down low. And granted, they do have a great distribution of scoring, San Antonio, but I mean, the old saying, if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you really don't have one. You got 10 players that score 7 points a game or more.
13 players.
Well, 13 players, 10 players that score 8 or more. So you don't have one guy that scores 20 points a game.
You have
Oklahoma City's got
Tony
two. So
Parker
who are
that
you going to
scores
go?
19
Who are you
a
going to
game.
go to in the stretch? Steven Jackson's 34, Duncan's 35, and Ginobili's 34. And Ginobili's been hurt all year. So who are you going to go to in a clutch situation in the Western Conference Finals against Oklahoma City? Because we got Durant, the most clutch player, and you know Westbrook will take a shot.
If I'm San Antonio, I'm going to Tim Duncan. I'm going to the guy that's won 4 championship rings in his
And Sergio will
career.
throw his shot back every time. Duncan is old.
Every time.
Fundamental Duncan.
Every time.
He's got all the fundamentals. He'll bust out a knee. He'll tear an ACL.
So if Tim
You're too
Duncan takes
old.
14 shots, Sergei Ibaka will have 14 blocks.
He might throw back 7 of them.
No, he won't.
Duncan won't score 10 points a game against Oklahoma City.
Yeah, okay.
Durant could score 30 points a game. Durant scored more than Kobe and 2 points more than Kobe and LeBron in the playoffs last year.
And where did
So-
Oklahoma City go last year?
Well, they need another year of experience. I mean, don't get me wrong. San Antonio's got a good team, and I think they're the only team in the NBA that can challenge Oklahoma City. But I think they're too old to do it.
Well, both
You're
teams,
right.
Western Conference, looks like it's going to be a strong playoff run for both teams. At the top of the show, we talked about the Masters. Bubba Watson pulls off his first win, gets the green jacket. A lot of one-and-dones. I want to know, Channing, do you think he can win another one?
I do. I like Bubba Watson. It's a good story. The top 10 in golf has been taken up by foreigners, which is not a bad thing over the last few years. It's good to see a Southern American dominate golf, especially in the good old Augusta, Georgia, and take that green jacket. Bubba he's the Brett Favre of golf. Grip it and rip it. He's a gunslinger. He hit one of the best shots I've ever seen in between those Georgia pines on the second playoff hole when the announcer said he's lost the tournament. And Bubba said, I was just happy to get to hit another shot. I like that attitude. See, golf's all about in between the ears. Of course, you got to have the talent and the skill level, but Bubba's got that approach where, Tiger's got so much stuff going on in his head, and Phil gets down and misses 4-foot putts to lose majors. Bubba's got that mentality that I'm just going to hit it. I'm going to hit it again, then I'm going to hit it again. Then after I hit it again, I'm going to hit it again.
That's probably his biggest fact is that he never took a lesson. He's never learned how to actually swing a golf club.
Drives longer than anybody else on the
And
tour,
drives
too.
longer
And
than
he's a pretty
anybody
good
else on the
putter.
tour. What do you think, Brandon?
Bubba Watson probably has the best shot of winning another major out of all of the recent major winners. Like Channing said, he does drive the ball further than anyone on tour. And when you can grip it and rip it like he can, obviously you're going to put yourself in a lot of tournaments. But let me run down for you some of the names that have won majors over the last few seasons, because let's just say since Tiger Woods has been on his slump, let's just say,
Something like that.
guys by the name of Keegan Bradley, Charles Schwartzel,
Who?
Martin Kamer, Louis Oosthuizen, Graham McDowell, Y.E. Yang, Lucas Glover.
And it just somehow
Have you ever
Jesus,
heard?
MTSU.
slides by.
Have you ever heard
That
of
gave
these
Bubba
guys?
Watson
Now,
2
most
putts
of
from
these
9
guys,
feet.
Schwartzel,
First
Oosthuizen,
putt to that
McDowell,
point.
Kramer,
And a tap-in par.
victory on the PGA Tour.
And an emotional
That's a great point. But it's hard to
Easter
be consistent.
Sunday for Bubba
That's why it's
Watson.
hard to be consistent, because there's 100-plus players that are in qualification for every major. So I'm not saying that Bubba Watson can
There's
win
been a
20
Watson
majors, but I
twice
think he can
before win the
2 or 3
Masters.
more.
I mean, he could, but
Tom
He
Watson,
won 3 previous championships. Not
make room in the
PGA Tour
champions'
events
locker
coming
room.
into this.
Bubba
So most of
Watson
the guys on your list have never won
is the
previous majors prior to
2012
winning the major.
Masters
And
champion.
He came in second in an overtime in 2010 in the U.S.
Who's ta-
Open. So it's not like he appeared overnight and then disappeared, last night.
I mean, he didn't, but you look down this list. Those are all the major winners since 2009. That's going on 4 years now. And none of these guys have won multiple majors. I don't see how Bubba Watson's going to be. I think Bubba Watson's
I think Bubba's
going to
get hot
Done.
and win a couple majors. Maybe
No
another
doubt.
one this year.
No doubt he's a talented
Maybe.
player. I think I can see him winning another major. Maybe not another Masters, but maybe a U.S. Open. That's all the time we got for the debate. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me. We'll be right back. That's going to do it for us here this week on NSEN. We'll see you next week.